In my house, I long to play D&D. Room by room, I rolled another 3, and I'll wait for you here at the dungeon entrance. I'll wait for you there and dance. Boom, boom, chicka, chicka, boom, boom, chicka, chicka, boom, boom, chicka, chicka, boom, boom, like a cleric. Casting vines, I will stop the kobolds in the mines like a fighter. Spec for spear, but always using swords. In a dungeon surrounded by peoples who are NPCs who deal with fruit, I will split the party up and we will get XP at your house. I long to play D&D. Room by room. Shit, I rolled another 3, but I'll wait for you here. But not alone, 'cause I'm chilling with my D&D homies. Boom, boom, chicka, chicka, boom, 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 chicka, chicka, boom, boom. Make it stop hankering for now. Why you got to do these intros? Creed? Are you kidding? No. Creed. Hi, guys. Creed frontman here. Rivers Cuomo, that's me. Frontman for popular band Creed. What's up, y'all? Let's click some things on the computer. Greeting program. Old hankering Furnail right here. That's me. Ingrid Bernal, your old buddy from Runehammer. All this splendor you see behind me. Look at this. Wonderful things. Laundry on the stairway railing. Hard suits over here. We have army painter things and the creature from the Black Lagoon dancing. That's because this is Runehammer right here. This is where all the magic happens. And now you are part of it. Welcome back. Happy Friday. It's 12:15 here in the great city of Philly, PA, and there's actually not two Phillies. It's just one Philly. I'm up in this. I got my Slee Stack hat on, and because this is what's going on in my upstairs. What is this? I don't know. What is that? What is all this stuff? I don't know. Hat goes on. Fashion locked down. Sup? Why are we here today? Oh, I remember Hard Suit Session 6. God dang. Yeah, it was Wednesday night. We are unfortunately facing a hiatus in July. So not only am I trying to get Hard Suit done and all that good stuff, but I am about to chop the nuptial log, as they say. And so I got to go camping. I got to go camping for a while. I just need to take a breather. So I'm going to get out there and camp. So yeah, this, I think session 7, which will be next Wednesday. So a week from today will probably be the last recap you're going to get in a little while, maybe even like a month. So you're going to have to just chill during that month and just have faith that we're going to be coming back. But yeah, we have a little bit of a break because you got to get outdoors sometimes in the summertime while the getting's good, especially the way the world is right now. I swear, like the rivers, the fires, the clouds, the sun, they're all angry. It's like, it's crazy out there. So I need to go camp in the woods before the woods is just a big bonfire. Anyway, it'll all be good. Yo, what's up, Ana Clara Rodriguez? Hello, Brazil, up here in Philly. To everybody across the world, skål. Unfortunately, I'm not drinking my iced coffee out of a bowl, or I would be cooler, but I've never really been that cool. So, hey, a couple of announcements before we dive into the recap. If you are a miniature builder and painter and you got them skills, basically everyone is better at it than I am. Jump over on my Patreon. It's $1. $1. And we're having a building and painting contest with the new hard suit STL files. These are 3D printer files. So if you have a resin 3D printer and you got them painting chops, you can enter the painting contest. You get 2 weeks, and I'm going to pick the coolest photos that are sent in for a winner, and those are going to be the photos that are used to sell and promote the first series of hard suit miniatures. So excited. And that's another thing about today. Session 6 was the first time I got to bring the hard suit miniatures into a session and actually use them on the table, which is the whole point of all this, right? Not just hoarding. I hear you out there. Hoarding miniatures. I don't do it. I don't have a bunch of action figures up on this shelf that I never touch. That's not me. I'm not like that. The real purpose of miniatures is to get them to the table, right? So I did that on Wednesday night, and it was fire. Just straight up. It was lit, y'all. It was bussing. Know what I mean? All right. Anyway, so if you're into that and it sounds like something that you could kill it, jump over on the Runehammer Patreon and send me a direct message, and I'll get you the STL file pack, which is now totally complete. I'd like to send a quick shout out to my man, Mitch Anderson, who did all of the hard work to set up the supports and the orientations and the optimization of all these models for 3D printing by hand, so that they're just going to work for everybody. And they're really, when you do see how they're set up, it is a class apart. It's pretty sick. Sometimes the way 3D printers do things, like with automated tools, it looks all crazy, but he's set it up where they look all like sick and organized. And they print perfect. If you guys watch some of my stream, I did a painting stream with these models back here. Just so jazzed with how they came out. And I'll tell you, I got to send another prop to my man, Sean Sutter, over at Metal King Studios, the creator of Relic Blade. He has always been an inspiration to me of the skill set that it takes to conceive, design, publish, 3D print, mold, make, and paint his ideas, from drawn ideas, and he does his writing all the way through ZBrush down to printed miniatures, and has that nice full suite of skills that make Relic Blade such a unique creation. I think Relic Blade you could expect that to be around for a very long time, because that's my style of dude. He just has taken the time to study and practice the different disciplines that come together so that it can just be a clear creative vision, and you're not having to sort of employ a team, which can also be fun. But anyway, we all know Relic Blade miniatures are super sick, but he's always been an inspiration to me. Now that I've taken something from ZBrush all the way into printing and painting, and then getting it on the table with stats and everything, I must be exactly where I belong in life, because sometimes, this hobby, it can be a little bit like playing with toys. Okay. And I'm a grown ass man, but I don't fucking care. It's too fun. It's just too fun. And moments like that, just the creative satisfaction of just having done all the steps and struggled through the steps and having to learn new things and just bring it to the table. So join the hard suit painting contest if that's something that you can jam on. The winner, their imagery will be used for the hard suit miniatures, as well as receiving a gift crate from yours truly with who knows what in it. I just pick stuff and put it in a box and make a card and be like, word to your mother, peace to the mothership. All right, that's enough of that crap. Also, that's enough announcements. We'll save the rest for the end. Let's get into this damn recap, shall we? Yeah, Malev, go check it out on Patreon. There's a full announcement there with all the details. Okay. Got to make sure that I remember everything. It was a big one. Okay, so here we are. It's Wednesday night, Hard Suit Session 6. We moved our group to a new location. So another one of my players just rented a new spot right over here in Kenzo, right over here in Philly with me and my peeps. So now we got super easy walking distance to the spot. We got a new table that's round. I love round tables for D&D. And we have a lamp that hangs right over the table, kind of low, at eye level. So it illuminates the table in a really fun way. It feels real tight with the homies. So that was great. Got in the new spot, get the music going. My players wanted to get robust in this session. They wanted to dive deep. They didn't want to get interrupted. So we met 2 hours early, expecting again to go about to 11:30 or just before midnight, but we gathered at 5, y'all. We gathered at 5. So this gives us a solid full night. This is like a work shift, 5 to midnight. This is some crazy shit, but that's how we're rolling. So we came in early so we could have a nice long shift. And to start things off, we've had some big accomplishments in session 5, right? And just on down the line. But I've executed a fundamental change in my GM style. I want to share it with you, and this is how session 6 kicked off. Is that I am now giving rewards, which in some games are experience, in some games are milestones, and so on and so forth, skills and the like, depending on what game you play, your own crazy homebrew pile of rules that you have. But I'm doing it at the beginning of the session now. So you get your milestones and your new abilities and stuff at the beginning. And I found that this works really well because everyone's attention is really peaked. And there's also a bit of chaos in the beginning of the session where everybody's getting their sheets out. People need new sheets. Somebody's actually inventing a new tracking method. Everybody's just very on it, right? And it's a really good time to say, this was cool last session. And you guys also like teamed up in the dopest way. Everybody take a milestone. And then, everyone's passing the book around, kind of, thinking about which ones they could take to sort of further differentiate their roles in the group and like do some complementary stuff. And doing it at the beginning of the session, I find there's way more attention to detail, better record keeping, and also it like unlocks this new sort of layer of excitement for the session that's about to happen because you've got one new toy on your character to play with. So I'm doing that from now on. I really like doing basically what people would call experience, your rewards at the beginning of the session when everyone's kind of settling in, right? You're not really playing D&D yet. You're just friends sitting down at a table with all this chaos, getting the miniatures out. We're getting the music started. Like there's some chords going on. Like somebody's putting their phone away. Like there's some chicken is simmering in the kitchen and stuff like that. It's a really good time to do this stuff. Then when everybody's head is nice and clear, all the characters are all tidied up and ready to rock, we get this session kicked off. Now, one great thing about session 6, because of the sudden ending of session 5, I had them completely contained. So I don't really need to parlay or narrate or describe my way into session 6. My players are in it. They're in this cavern. They have defeated pretty much the primary threat of this little sort of 3-room dungeon. They've discovered all these crab eggs, which pose an existential threat to the wider landscape because there's 700 of these damn things. But they've also, most importantly, found this place, the Sunken Chapel, which is this sort of cultish, hewn square cave at the back of this crab cavern, this sea cave, depicting all these sort of images of this titan called Bubble Boar, which when this thing comes up on shore, it's like Godzilla, but worse. It brings this massive storm front with it. Yeah, an existential threat. Thank you. I'm trying to keep my eyes off the comments, but that's just too good. So they find out that this is all being caused by this character named Trask. Trask is one of the everlasting, and he is basically the person that sent my group of players on their mission in the first place. He sent them. It was his job to handpick this strike crew and get them out there to find this hidden dimensional gate that was at the bottom of the ocean. 70 years have passed since then. And remember, my players are mutineers. They mutinied that mission. They did not want Trask and his superiors to get their hands on the realm gate for reasons that are not entirely clear yet, but they assume that realm gates are sources of massive power. And you generally don't want bad guys having that. So now they come face to face with their former boss, basically. Trask is the one who sent them. He was responsible for the mission. And when the mission ended, it not only in mutiny and failure, but then the ship disappeared because remember, they stayed hidden out on the open ocean. Trask, in his desperation, was faced with 2 situations. One, he was given this punishment for botching this mission by his superiors, that he must find them at all costs. So he came up with this crazy plan. Summon Bubble Boar, cause the weather to come in from the Western Ocean, forcing the ship. It's been out there for years hiding, forcing the ship to ground. and then waiting for the players to surface, because he knew they had hard suits. He knew they had suspended animation pods. He gave them all this capability, but then they mutinied. He knew he could use the weather to bring them in. It worked. Here they are in session 5, face to face. He's like, I've got you. And this big conversation begins. So this is the beginning of session 6, is this role play conversation. Now, there's no freaking way, with all this gravity in our world and all this revelation hinging on Trask and his right-hand man, Jensen, who is a human being who is slowly and painfully, I might add, turning into sort of a fish man, but in the worst way. Like, it really hurts. The gravity around this is too much for somebody to roll a charisma roll and they overcome him. I know that they don't want to kill him because they mentioned it in their text thread, which is ongoing every week. They didn't want to kill him because they felt like there's no going back from that. Why? We can always make a new ally rather than just kill. If you have an irrational foe, like a monster, yeah, you probably just need to put it down. But human beings can always be reasoned with in some aspect before you resort to that. I love when players say stuff like that. So I kind of know that they're going to want to reason with him. So in my journal, I have several notes on what his motivations are, what his conditions are, what he will take and what he will give in negotiations. This is where my whole head is coming into this session. And I got to say that this is an amazing moment. And so from about 5 to 5:45, I would say, gathering with the homies, we are doing new abilities. We're dealing with character sheets, but we're also having a couple of beers as we're getting ready, because we usually eat like at the halfway point of our session, and we always have a couple of beers at the beginning. But there was some magical element of timing here. And I mentioned like having a couple of beers because we all know about the sort of, what social lubrication is, right? Like it's not about like drinking so much beer you don't know where the hell you are. But like when a conversation begins, there's no denying that like someone having a nice cold beer, they sort of loosen into the conversation. It's indubitable part of human reality. And sometimes the timing is right on and other times it's kind of not. This time it was on. The role-playing sort of session, like the meat and taters, the real grits of it, really began just gangbusters. So remember, even when doing like heavy role play, I always allow all kinds of crosstalk at the table, but we move the spotlight from character to character clockwise, even during role play, so that everybody gets to say a line, sort of like we're doing a comic book or we're sort of storyboarding a film. And all of this is kind of happening simultaneously, but I like to move the spotlight to make sure each person gets a cool moment to deliver their one-liner, like Arnie style, right? And so we move through, right? The players are now gathering they've all sort of caught up with each other, except Gendry, our war master, has extracted 2 of the seeker missiles from the hard suit and has come forward and is basically carrying them like dumbbells on his shoulders and puts them in this egg room. You can see he means to end this in an explosion, but not yet. Then we have Cypher coming in, and she begins negotiating with Trask, also digging for deeper truths, but negotiating with him, but not quite sure where she stands just yet. It feels like a fight could break out at any second, but she's basically saying, you're misguided. I may be the defector, but you're the one who's wrong, right? You need to turn now. You need to join the rebellion. You of all people should hate these guys, the rulers of Throne, the everlasting. They've abused you almost more than anyone else. You're the one who should be turning against them. And he's just like, yeah, that's a clever trick, but it's not going to work. I'm not going to be like you. You know the fate that awaits traitors with them. It's horrible, worse than death, blah, 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 right? So she doesn't necessarily get that far with them. So then we go to Quark. Quark is bringing in the hard suits and also kind of looking around. He's like our kid, right? And it's fun how he sort of plays a passive role in conversations, but always manages to get like a piece of information out of an NPC. And it's kind of mentioned, really, Quark is one of the proteges who brought the final sort of pieces together that make hard suits work as good as they do now. Like, he's one of the original inventors. Kind of a cool revelation, but doesn't really move us toward what we're working on. Then we get to Warag. And when Warag comes to his turn, now my player who plays Warag can sometimes be a little bit introverted and can sometimes hesitate to just like do all out role play, right? All of us are sometimes. It can feel kind of on the spot and you can feel a little awkward, but he rolls in hot. He's just coming right at the guy saying like, we don't want to have to kill you, but we're just here to get rid of these damn crabs if you take action against us. And then Trask recognizes, of course he recognizes Warag because he sent him to go do this mission. He says, what happened out there? What happened? I know it was you. I can sense it. And he's like looking him in the eye, sort of. You did this somehow, which Trask is right. He just doesn't know what happened. Remember, Warag led the mutiny. He's like, what happened? Where's the compass? Just give me the compass. I'll tell you what, I'm changing my terms. This is Trask talking. I'm changing my terms. I just want the compass to find the realm gate, and I don't want to hurt any of you. We used to be on the same side before all this happened. I just want to do my job. I'm not here to just, especially to kill another everlasting like Cypher. I don't want to do that. Where is it? What happened out there? And Warag with a real, like, a lot of like acting swag. Like he basically just said, there's nothing to tell. There's no story to tell. He just tight-lipped. Now that sounds relatively minimalistic, but in the moment, the table was just like, there was so much gravity in how he just refused to say a word. And they know that they're vastly outmatched by this character. This character is sort of like an arch vampire type character. They're not vampires per se, but moves by blipping, has like these double whip swords and has a lot of drain abilities and is like can do small teleports and other stuff. Like this is a formidable enemy, but he's just like refuses to open his mouth and say anything that would go against his team. And it's awesome. And now we move into Cypher or Wake. Sorry. And then we go around the table a couple of times. And what happens is they just wear him down more and more until finally they say, look, we would give you the compass if we could, but we lost it when this horrible weather swept us in. Our ship was destroyed on the coast. Now, by the way, this is a flat out lie. Trask senses that this is a lie, and it's Gendry who pulls this lie off after a couple of rounds of heavy duty RP. And now I have a chance, and we do like a competing intelligence roll. On the one hand, can you conceal that you're lying? On the other hand, can he detect it? And the difference is huge. It's like a 2 to a 19 or something. Like I really flooped it and Gendry really nailed it. So I have no recourse than to acknowledge the dice on this. They didn't dice their way around their encounter. They let it all down to one really concise roll. And I like that. So Trask believes them. So the compass was lost at sea. Well, then it has to be found. And now we get into the second part of this role play that got so wild, which is that and it was undeniable for me. I didn't really want this per se, but they really did talk Trask into a vague commitment to betray the everlasting. Because he's been alive so long, he's worn down by all of this. But he gets to go back to them and report honestly that he's still looking for the compass, that it was lost by these heroes, that he's going to seek it. He's going to double his efforts to probably use some magical means to keep looking for this compass, right? And it gives him an alibi, basically. But he sees the truth and the heroism in these characters. Because the role play was just so good. It was like some Oscar-winning moments. It was just so fun to open a session up with such dedicated role-playing. I couldn't deny it. And so Trask makes this promise. He says, when the time comes at the end, and you are reaching this cataclysmic confrontation that I sense you're all craving, that you think you're going to set this world free or something, I'll be there. And I need you to do what needs to be done so that I can never be punished by them. So he's, without saying it, because he can't, because he won't be a traitor. Not yet. But without saying it, this kind of reminds me of some of the stuff that people said in The Stand by Stephen King. They kind of have these vague, big ending commitments. But basically, he'll help them at the final hour, but also wants to be killed, wants to be eliminated so that he's never captured and tortured as a traitor, regardless of the outcome of the insurrection, of the rebellion, right? Whoa. Now, I did not see this. I didn't have a note about that in my book. Nothing could have prepared me for this role play session except sort of just knowing what he's about and what his goals are and what his limits are, things he won't do and won't commit to. And he held to all those things. He had viable denial. He had a real alibi. So I get to keep my villain. He doesn't just turn, because that would make him kind of schleppy. And in a way, this also reminds me of some of the things I love about Star Wars, is that often you'll get these villains that have extremely long arcs of momentary redemption, where they kind of doubted the situation they're in all along. But when you're in an empire, not lightly do you just throw it off. You become a defector. You become a fugitive, right? So anyways, this is the opening scene. They resolve this. They let Trask leave. They just let him walk out of there. Now, this is basically an agent of the enemy. So they're really showing some serious sand here. They're letting the enemy just walk out of there. But it's so cool, because it's like they said, if you kill somebody, you never get to go back on that. You never get to undo that. But if you work with them and you hope, maybe they do betray you in the future, but you took the high road. And it's like, as game master, that is some seriously satisfying shit. So off goes Trask. They leave the cave. They detonate the missiles. They blow this whole thing to smithereens after kind of poking around a little bit. They collapse the entire cave. This huge poof of salt gas comes out. Not before, though, Awake manages to take one crab egg. This is always how it goes, right? And in the absence of this saltwater spray that's bathing the crab eggs, it kind of hardens and turns opaque, and the little crabbies inside stop moving. So he's got like an inert cave crab egg. I mean, that's always D&D, right? This always happens. There's always a player who has to take a creature egg. Okay. So that is the end of sort of the first act of session 6. Grab some snacks. We come back to the table. As my players come back over the cliff tops from the cave, oh, it's time to rest. No. This is Hanker Infernal you're dealing with here, man. I'm going to bring the pain down. So as they come up over the cliff, they're like, wow, let's go back to the cabin and repair the suits and take 3 days off. Nope. Forge Master Yukon from session 5 is charging across the grasslands on the top of the Tower Narrows cliffs in his suit with a huge drill arm and the missile box. And he's running across there using like an ion drive to run super fast in this hard suit. And then panning to the left up on the horizon, there are 2 giants silhouetted against the clouds as the storm is becoming worse and worse, rolling off the ocean. And at the feet of these 2 giants is a legion of troops, at least 100 spears strong, with purest Ammon at the front, riding a tegu like a giant lizard. And he's the one that they saw in the village, the one who cut his own toes off to escape. He's reported back in the few days interim and returned with a fighting force of extraordinary magnitude. But Forge Master Yukon is going to meet them. And by the way, Forge Master Yukon is no pushover. This is basically a guy who can modify, rebuild, repair, regenerate his own hard suit. This guy is not to be fucked with. Rolls across the plains and then sees the heroes emerging over the cliff tops, all beat up and salty with all these little crab cuts on them. And he gives them this wave, this Jeremiah Johnson wave. And it was so important what this wave is. My players took the time to use like this ruby veriscope that they have to zoom in to try to really interpret what this gesture is he's giving, because they really like Forge Master Yukon. They do it. They do the wisdom check. They make it. The rain is driving in. And what they realize he's saying is, go. I've got this. Go. Because remember, they had this whole conversation about starting the rebellion up again, about finding others who would do this. He knows that Warag is being slowly taken over by the red webs, that he needs to get down to Greenbow Forest to find this Bolo man who can help stop the red webs. Forge Master Yukon knows this shit, so he is just going in solo against this small army, and he just gives the Jeremiah Johnson wave with his hard suit. You go. I got this. And as the players turn south, using the rain for cover, heading down toward the forest, the last thing they see is Forge Master Yukon basically just smashing into this military force, taking them on single-handedly in a fucking hard suit. Yeah! Now, I wish I could back my videos with music like I back my sessions, but I can't because of copyright things on YouTube. But using music to effect in my sessions, I'm kind of infamous for doing it. It sometimes is truly uncanny how it lines up, the narration and the action with the music. Sometimes it's an accident, and sometimes it's me doing it sleight of hand on the side. But damn, that moment felt good. So now I've got my players moving into a different chapter, away from Greenman Village, away from Mord's cabin, away from the Tower Narrows. That was the whole first 5 sessions. Now they've turned down into a new chapter, Greenbow Forest, this endless forest that forms a belt across the middle of Atria. There will be a gigantic map coming with Hardsuit, and it'll be just like this huge Alfheim canvas map I have on the wall. So you'll have this giant, this is my favorite world to play in since I made Alfheim. I'm going to be in Atria for years now, and I'm excited for you guys to go there too. But we're going down into Greenbow Forest. As they enter the forest, and this is very similar to good old Fangorn, or even if you imagine like Simbarum, but without the ruins. They venture into the forest, and they're not even sure where to find this guy, but they use the rolls, they use their skills, they follow the river. We have a whole sort of narrative component going on here, and they're walking their suits. They're just, they're past like concealing their suits at this point. They're fugitives now, so there's not much reason to hide their suits anymore. For the first 4 sessions, it was very important that they hid their hard suits, but not anymore. They are clearly part of the rebellion now. They're walking down. They find the river. There's a clearing there by the river. And the storm surge from the ocean is so powerful as this storm front is rolling in. We're now 2 clicks away, not 2 rounds, about a session and a half. This storm will fully arrive. The waves will crash over the cliffs of the Tower Narrows and really wash away like a quarter mile of the shoreline, but we're not there yet. But the storm surge is coming in a way. It's coming upriver, but the river flows downstream, right? And where storm surge and current meet, it forms a standing wave. This happens quite often in monsoon season in Southeast Asia. And where this standing wave has formed in the Greenbow River, there is a man, a Bolo man. Bolo men they're stout like dwarves with black hair and black beards and covered in tattoos, and they're known to be very mirthful, solitary, camping nomad types. There is a Bolo man out there surfing on this standing wave, fishing off of his surfboard, like in the rain. When he sees the heroes approach, he isn't like scared or shocked or whatever. He's just psyched. He just waves and he's just like, ha ha, heroes with hard suits. And he comes surfing right across on the wave. Lands on the land. He says, my fire is your fire. So good to see adventurers. Times are good. And this is something that this guy constantly says. Times are good. Like the ocean is nourishing the forest. Times are good. The rebellion is growing again. I don't normally have like super positive NPCs like this, but this was just part of the preparation for this guy. I want him to be a total Mahalo bro. You know what I'm saying? So they come to his little shelter where his campfire is, and they begin to talk. Sure enough, okay, Warag has these red webs. They're spreading over his shoulders now. Ooh, this guy introduces himself. His name is Maquil Urutu, which Maquil is his first name, but he comes from Ulru, which is the sort of the jungle to the south. And this is also another part that I want to share here. Okay, so they talk to him. He says, oh, yeah, you're definitely going to need stick and poke. Stick and poke is a very old term for a tribal tattooing method using a needle on a stick and a small hammer. And that's how you do the, Proterozoic primeval tattooing. So he says, yeah, you need this stick and poke. I know how to do it. But you know what? I need help with something. There's a rune marker out in the forest. It's being taken over by red webs, just like the one that was destroyed by Greenman Village. If this happens, monsters are going to run rampant through this whole area. I've been trying to retake the rune marker, but it is surrounded by these rat mutant men who seem to be drawn to its power. I can't beat them. There are too many of them. They've established a barrow over there, and I need you guys' help. You guys are armed to the teeth. We go kill them all. We restore the rune marker to its rightful state. We clean it up, and then I'll give you your tattoo. And then he says the little thing I wanted to talk about. Un bun on bun. Ubun on bun. So in Hardsuit, I've been slowly establishing a couple of key phrases that are in Hadrian, like the old language or the common old language of Atria in this world. And at first I felt a little silly doing it, but I noticed that my players really glom onto this stuff and really like it. So now we have 2. We have Habaka, which is like our cheers. That's how you say cheers in Atria. You say Habaka. It means to the bridge. Like it's like a fighting rally cry. And then there's this new one, Ubun on Boon. Ubun on Boon means a deal is a deal. It means you scratch my back, I scratch yours. It means like I stand by this deal. Even Steven, right? I will not betray this. My word is my bond kind of stuff. Ubun on Boon. And so instantly they kind of take to this. And it kind of becomes its own form of rally cry. When the moment comes that your resolve to stand by your word is tested, it's like a mantra. Ubun on Boon. A deal is a deal. I'm going to follow through with this. So they make this deal. This is like straight up meat and potatoes quest giver stuff right here. You know what I mean? This is a guy with an exclamation point above his head. You go in, he has some rewards, but he needs a task. I mean, this is not like super advanced storytelling stuff. This is just, you're in a different hex of the world, and there's a dude who needs some help with something, and then he can help you out. I mean, but see, it looks that simple on paper. But in the game, and you get the role playing going, you get the Boon on Boon going, you get McQueel, who I was having a great time being McQueel, because he's super positive all the time. He's just like, you guys are so great, man. You are going to do great things. I can see it in you, you know. I've got a bunch of freshly smoked fish over here. We should just partake before we get into any bloody battles. You know what I mean? Life is good right now. Times are good. Guys, psyched. All right, so they agree to the whole thing. They travel through the forest and they go to this rune marker. Of course, you guys know exactly what's going to be happening here. There's a rune marker in a big circle of thorned brambles. This is important. And then at the far end, there's a burrow that's been dug or built into these brambles. And right away, these rat warrior men come bursting out. And they are basically ROUSs, but that have been sort of taken by the webs. The red webs are like in their eyes and stuff. So these webs are definitely the ongoing challenge of this world, and they can monsterify animals. These things are not only drawn to the webs, but have been infected by them in some way. It also gives a little bit of carte blanche, morally speaking, to kill them. It kind of feels like putting down a rabid animal, which isn't pleasant per se, but is probably for the best. And here it begins. We've got 2 hard suits. We got 5 characters, and we've got McQueel himself, who basically says, all I need is time to mend the rune marker. Just protect me. Again, good way to get mobility in your fights. Don't make everything just about combat. There's one thing that has a specific location right in the middle of the action that's going to take 4 or 5 rounds to do, to fix, to repair, to activate, whatever. And then players just need to keep threats away from that location. So that's what we're doing in this battle. McQueel he's like taking big handfuls of red webs out of these cracks in this stone, like handfuls of spaghetti, just pulling it out, using like a branch to brush it all away. And he's just like, it's a real mess in here. The battle unfolds. The suits are brought to bear, but then my players are also jumping out of the suits or using them as cover and firing. They have learned so much about how to use these suits in just these few sessions, and they're taking on these rat men. But then, of course, one of the rat men screams and conjures up like 4 more rat men. They come out of the barrow. My players know me by now. They know there's going to be an infinite number of these dang freaking rat men if they don't do something about it. And then we hit probably one of my favorite turning points of the session. Gendry gets back into his hard suit, walks forward, grabs the brambles on either side of this barrow, and basically crushes in the brambles with the big arms of they have one suit called a Bone Crusher. Does this with these big long arms of Bone Crusher and basically tangles them all and grapples and entraps them all. And then asks a yes/no question with which only dice can decide. He said, can we lock a hard suit in position and like leave and get out of it and just leave it locked in position? I'm like, I don't know the answer to that. So we get out our trusty D6. 1, 2, 3 is always no. 4, 5, 6 is always yes. Bang, he gets a yes. So he just deactivates the suit in this crushed, held position. It's blocked up the entrance to the barrow. It's held like 4 of the rat men where they can't act, and they can get out, and now they can pepper them and take them down. We even get one moment where Warag comes in with his battle axe that Forge Master Yukon made for him and beheads one of these things with a massive roll. It was just an intensely satisfying feeling. We've got munitions being fired. Quark is modifying his gun to get rid of its sort of unpredictable qualities. Cypher's back there throwing daggers like she does. It was just really fun. Almost had like a, Vox Machina cartoon intro kind of feel to it, spiral smoke patterns are all over the place. It's just super fun, straight up battle. We did have one scary drop where our healer, Awake, he dropped with a pretty short dying timer. That's quite terrifying in our game. Warag had to use his botany skills. He's running around looking for silver bloom, which is our world's version of King's Foil from Lord of the Rings. It is an herb that heals like 1 hit point usually, but it can be found in wild places, but never indoors. He finds one with a good roll, manages to get our healer back up, who does some healing in turn, and they manage to get through this fight. The rune marker is restored. The rats are no more. The barrow is burned and destroyed. We've won. As everyone is sort of leaving, there's some kind of structure up there in the brambles just beyond the rune marker, just like the shrine that was near the rune marker between the Tower Narrows and Greenman Village, if you guys go all the way back to session 3. So these rune markers are always accompanied by some kind of other little building, much like a Shinto shrine, right? There's sort of a holy thing, which is often a tree, and then you have a temple, which is sort of like a hospitality stop for spirits. But when McQueel sees this, he tells the group, he says, let's move on. The rune marker is restored. No need to dwell on death. No need to look up there. That is a place of death. Don't go there. We've done what we've done. Let's go stick and poke. Let's go do this tattoo. There's no need to go up there. And generally people listen to him, but obviously this is a heavy-handed GM clue, and Gendry can't resist. Gendry notices that the rune on the rune markers is the same rune that's been branded onto his throat, the rune of the War Masters. And he goes up to this little shrine, and on the door is this rune. And he goes in, and there are no fewer than 20 bodies in this mausoleum. Various stages of decay, each one with this brand. This is a tomb of War Masters. So at this moment, seeing all these War Masters who are basically silent servants of throne, right? They're slaves, they're warriors, but they're branded so they can't speak. He sees these colleagues of his, and his memories come flooding back when he received his imperial conditioning, back when he was assigned to protect Quark. Quark, remember, is the protege who helped to invent hardsuit technology, to perfect it. He had his own War Master, even as a kid, to protect him, a bodyguard for life, sworn by blood to serve this purpose. And he sees the dead colleagues of his who must have died here over the years in some kind of conflict about this rune marker, or trying to protect the forest, or maybe even being part of the rebellion. Who knows? They're long dead, but all the memories flood back, and he earns his origin. We now have all 5 characters with their origin. He chooses his starting loot and gets a sense of where he's headed with his character. He's got this feeling of completion in his character. The Tomb of the War Masters. Nicholas Montalpar. Go back. There are 5 videos before this one to watch if you want to get recapped on the entire hardsuit story. Completed with this sort of massive set of revelations, Gendry rejoins the group. They go back with McQueel. McQueel begins this process. And I'm sort of doing this at the table for the next hour of roleplay. This is stick and poke. This is how you do it. You have a stick with a needle and the ink in one hand, and you have a little hammer on the other hand, and then you slowly draw the tattoo. The way he's doing it is that everywhere a red web is on Warag's back, he has to tattoo it into oblivion. So he winds up with a mess like this. And this is where, of course, this whole idea came from, is like the red webs that were just a fun tattoo idea became this whole central idea in the game. And of course, now the table is all sort of buzzing about how we're all going to get more red web tattoos. Who knows? But that is the next long piece of roleplay, is they're getting to know McQueel, and they're learning more about the wider world, about Karas, about the pyramids, about this character Maram, who's this mummy, who's like the oldest of the Undying, who rebelled against them, is trying to retake throne for himself. And the desert is south of the forest, and no one ever goes down there. But then also talk about Red Mark Abbey, which Awake is originally from. This monastery that's way up in the far north, that's sort of haunted and abandoned, and nobody really likes to talk about it because it holds secrets that are older than Throne itself. And we're basically just laying out a bunch of vectors and hooks. If you guys have been reading my new blog over at runehammer.online, I did one about vectors. And this is a moment where vectors are all over the place. My players could totally go south into the desert. They could dwell in the forest longer. They could begin to head up toward the abbey. They hear that Vorhal is struggling directly against Throne, and there's a gathering of hard suits down in the desert to fight Maram, and also up in Vorhal. These are just opposite vectors. This is saying you guys could go do some desert action, or you could go way up north and fight at the gates with the other hard suits. Like, you've got clearance, Clarence, on all this stuff. And taking it in and watching the players take all the notes is the final hour of the session. So coming into session 7, which is going to be a week from Wednesday, so like just 5 days away or whatever, we've got a massive sandbox situation going on. So I'm going to need to get some kind of clue from them what they're thinking they want to do, because we've ended this session not on a cliffhanger with a direct sense of where we are and what we're doing. Absolutely no containment. We are in mega sandbox mode right now coming into session 7. So I'm going to need some clues on our text thread. And that is Hard Suit session 6. So it's pretty exciting, because whatever they do next, except just staying right there in the forest, is going to be some hex rolls. You know, we do a light version of hex crawling kind of stuff, and leave it to the dice a little bit what happens along the way in longer traveling scenes. What is this? What is this stuff? Come on. And that's going to be fun, but I have no clue what comes next. We really just didn't get into it. We had some chicken to eat, and we had one of us had to run to go catch the train. So we got, like this kind of abrupt ending at 11:30, but with a clean slate as far as the conditions of the group. So that is Hard Suit session recap number 6. Thanks you guys for tuning in. As always, we can throw down on some Q&A. I always love doing that part. Give me that. When you have this on the top of your head, you don't need a blow dryer to create a situation of this nature. Look at this thing. Anyway, so question in all caps if you can, and I can spot you in the flow over there. If you have anything to holler at old Hankering about. I'm just sipping on my bean water here. They don't have a buzzsaw arm yet, but it certainly could be built. Like, why would you want to clear forest? Who wants to do that? I don't want to clear forest. Did y'all know that the chainsaw was originally invented to cut the human jawbone? Isn't that crazy? A little mini chainsaw to cut jawbones. Pretty wild, huh? Oh, well, who said the ziggurats are overgrown? Well, I guess there could be one. There could be one. It's kind of a tropey thing, I suppose. Freeform magic systems. I like them much more than spell lists. I like spell lists as starting points, but I do not have any love of extensive spell lists. I think a spell list should be relatively short, maybe 20-ish. Just for clues, though, but I definitely prefer freeform. But remember, I come from a truly like creative DIY type hobby standpoint. I really like to mash up bits from everywhere, be beholden to no one, and ride that sort of. I wouldn't even consider it formless. It's just really how, in my mind, magic works. Really big fan of Scotty's new Easy D6 magic system, because it's always got risk involved in a really neat way. And the greater the power, the greater the risk kind of a thing, but does rely on some formlessness. I think the only thing that brings me down about magic user characters is sometimes reading those damn stat blocks on spells is trying. It can be quite trying. So I like simpler spells or improvised spells, stuff like that. Jameson summer cocktail suggestion. Whiskey with a giant ice cube. So Jameson in a glass with a giant ice cube. There you go. Other than that, you could always do like the what are those things called? Negronis? I don't know. When it comes to whiskey, I don't really like mixing in anything. I just like it to be ice cold with a little bit of water in there. Perfect. Are you playing Roll20. We've had a couple delays because people have been busy, but yes, I am basically the very beginning of testing my next system, which won't be out for at least 2 years. But yeah. And if you are, do I have Sandbox style? No, in Roll20, I don't play as Sandboxy. I find it difficult. Yeah, VTT sort of binds you into providing cool visuals more so than it does playing a traditional form of D&D, for me at least. Yeah, I definitely prefer the table vastly, but it's the only way to, really hang with my homies is to use Roll20. So in that regard, it's a slam dunk. Since you don't hide your dice rolls, that's right, I don't. What are your thoughts on player-facing rolls? They're great. We do tons of them. We do defense rolls, we do dodge rolls, we do all that kind of stuff. They're awesome. What more can I say? I like to roll as a GM, but I love the player-facing stuff. It's super fun. More and more of my monsters are, I love to use player-facing rolls for monsters. It's great, but mix it up. My players can also roll, or my monsters can also roll. Like, why not? I don't need to be extreme between the two. Yeah, Justin, the hard suits aren't robots, though. They don't have actuators or any of that stuff. But we'll get to all that. Oh, cool. That's good news, Dorky. Word up. I think in the past you've said DM Scotty's great. Yeah. What about his DMing do you enjoy? Scotty has a very clear sense of how to sort of build up stakes. And he doesn't do it by incurring constant danger, pressure, and structure. He does it with relaxation. But then when the time comes that the danger has now congealed into the true horror, a lot like short fiction often follows this formula. But he has that method really down pat. But that's just the gaming side. Scotty is also just a legit bro. Like, I'm not sure how to put it in the right way, but sometimes D&D can sort of almost come between people. It can almost be used as a sort of this sort of milieu of social interaction that can feel a little bit weird, at least to me, and unnatural, and can be overly like called to, like, well, we're playing D&D kind of I don't know. It's just, but the point is, Scotty doesn't have that. Like, just kicking it with Scotty is so chill and so easy. To me, this is the kind of thing that I aspire to be as a game master, is like extremely welcoming and sort of a bit of a normie, so to speak. I think this is another great thing about the Eddie Munson character on Stranger Things. As a dungeon master, yeah, he is a little bit crazy, but they really did respect to that character type, which I had a lot of in my life, which is the kind of the metal D&D nice guy. That's a thing. Matter of fact, almost everyone I know who's into metal are like the nicest people. And I really think they did that justice, because at first it's like he's intimidating being a dungeon master, but he's kind of just kidding, and he's a big softy, and he's really a person who's like there for you and is very supportive and very nice. And I think Scotty has that vibe, and that's the vibe that I aspire to. I try to like never gloat or hold this game over anyone. Nothing is sacred. It's just a gathering of friends. Nothing about any book or any system or any of that stuff is more important than just that we're friends together and that everyone here has a great time and just feels relaxed and nothing's weird. And Scotty does that in spades. CD drives. Now that your players have the chance to explore the open world, well, they have a little bit, but you know how it goes. Will I use timers to influence travel choices? No, there is no such thing as living without consequence. Oh, hey, Skullforge, your stuff's awesome, by the way. Well, you knew that already. No, there's no part of any game that I ever run that has no consequences. That's just not me. My worlds are very alive and things are very much happening. And I got to say, who does a really great job at that, I think, is the Star Wars universe. They have a real feeling that the struggles are always ongoing, no matter how far you zoom in on any particular piece of action. I really, really like that about their ever-growing universe. It's really freaking cool, and I aspire to that. So there's always going to be consequences. Things are always getting a little wild here and there. Like what happens with Forge Master Yukon and the Purist? What happens with that conflict? You know, what's happening in other parts of the nation? Here comes Bubble Boar. It's about to smash into the coast and basically submerge part of our world and like reduce the size of the map partially and all this kind of stuff. So there's never a lack of consequences, but that doesn't mean there's a lack of freedom. The freedom is there. It's choosing how you use your heroic presence that determines not just the consequences, but the situations that you really do help. Yeah, totally. Scotty does look like Eddie Munson 30 years later. That's great. That's so true. I freaking love Eddie Munson, man. I feel so seen with that character. I feel legitimized. You know, sometimes I am a little bit fringy. I don't know. The D&D mainstream these days is like sort of like you have a crazy hair color and maybe like you wear elf ears or like cosplay while you're playing or something. That is just so not me. I have nothing against it. Like totally rock on with yourself. Be crazy and weird. But that is just not me. I've always been more like, yeah, I like Black Sabbath and D&D and I wear like brewery t-shirts. Like that's my shit. With the success of Easy D6, yeah, it's absolutely slaying it. We just went gold, and it's just the beginning. There's going to be 2 more books. So excited about Easy D6, and it's a real privilege to be working on that. Do you think that all 3 will be released as well, Jacob, you have looked into the crystal ball. We were just talking about that very thing. So get the system out there this year. Make sure that it's something that's going to stick and that matters. You know, it's really easy to just put out a system and it never really gets played, right? That is a real thing. It might sell well, but people just read your book and shelf it and nobody really plays it. So we want to make sure that this has real staying power and that it's sticky with players and it's hackable and expandable and can be as crunchy or not crunchy as anybody may want to be. I don't believe that a system is inherently crunchy or not crunchy. They are what we make them. And so we want to make sure that Easy D6 feels like that. And if that momentum all sticks, yeah, we totally want to do either like a super tome, like a master edition next year, or a box set or something cool. But Easy D6 is not going anywhere. It is here to stay. Scotty's already been playing it for years, and he is one of the pillars of our hobby in my mind. And so if, you know, I love his writing style and I love his GM thinking style. You can tell that there's a lot going on there that's just built on real table time, not on hypotheticals or conjecture. This is like really born from playing, which to me, like that is the gold standard of the things that we love so much. And so, yeah. So the short answer, yes. Sandbox mode. I would note 6 things. I don't really do that. I don't really set any expectations on it. Everything's going to rely on the session. Hardsuit is built with some hex rolls based on where you are in the world to give you some starter clues and some mechanical bits on the difficulty or on the boons that you discover during travel. But I never really do preconceived 6 things that could happen sort of stuff. That's not really my style. I even wind up throwing away my own writing a lot of the times. Like it just doesn't fit the exact moment. You know, we really need to get through these moments together. That's why I use Sharpie and index cards so much. It's like, we are kind of creating as we go. And that's kind of my John right there. How do you take your coffee? Many, many ways. I like creamy, icy bean water. I like hot black ice water. I like mochas. I like lattes. I like cappuccino. I like Greek coffee. I like Turkish coffee. I like it all. But there's a lot of bad coffee in Philly. And I like that too. Fuck it. Yeah, cool. Burning wheel. Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. And you know, it isn't necessarily all about just buying more and more and more things, but it's a big world as a hobby out there. And there are like rivers. There are areas, there are sub areas of the hobby. And I live in one of those sub areas. So I don't just kind of like get everything. I kind of live in a little river. So it doesn't just feel like collecting and collecting and collecting to me. It kind of feels like play this, integrate this, throw this one out. It's kind of a stat. It isn't just like, you know, I'm not really a collector per se. I just live in this sort of linear river of RPG craziness. Yeah, but oh man, deep with reading is a really good place to be. I just finished Zach von Hauser's little horror book. Fantastic. The Shuffling Night and the Long Shift. Great little book if you have a chance to pick it up. He's a Philly author and really, really sweet little book. So I am ready to pick up my next book. I'm the beginning. Okay, cool. Yeah, rock on. Awesome. Collective creativity. Yes, hack on, my homebrewers. Hack on. That's about it then for today, I guess, y'all. That's about it for today. So, hey, jump over to runehammer.online, subscribe to my blog. I'm going to be hitting that sucker up about twice a week. I love writing sort of short, semi-humorous think blobs about our glorious hobby. I'm always really itching to write. It's just the world sees 1% of my writing. The rest just goes into cold storage, maybe for use in some other thing. But yeah, it's kind of never ending. So doing the blog is really fun. If you want to join the Hardsuit painting contest, jump over to Runehammer Patreon. And that's about it. And yeah, EZD6 is really fun, especially because it can go deep. It's presented as rules light, but really it's what I wish the D6 system in Viking Death Squad would have come out as. Viking Death Squad, in its innovation, I think, is just a little bit of a screw twist in the brain. Whereas I feel like EZD6 is really easily expandable. So as we both sort of designed, D6 dice pool systems at the same time, and I really like what he came up with. It's just very, very fluid. Anyway, that's about it. Not here to plug a bunch of stuff, more so here to recap Hardsuit Session 6. I will be back here 1 week from today to recap Hardsuit Session 7, and then we're going to have a little bit of a hiatus as I take a break to go live a little bit of life. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Going to be excited to see your Hardsuits. So keep an eye on my Insta and my Patreon and my blog and all this other stuff as the Hardsuit painting contest comes in. Because I'll tell you what, you guys probably saw the Hardsuits that I did. I imagine, since I know everyone is better at painting than me, that we're going to see some really cool stuff come. So strength, honor, and beer. Remember, lift heavy and drink deep. Get out there. Take care of somebody, will you? Just tell somebody you love them. Give somebody a hug. Give that homeless dude $5. Buy somebody a cheeseburger. Just help somebody with a flat tire. And if all of us do that, it's just going to be a better world all the way around the horn, okay? So until next time, keep it real, y'all, and I'll see you on that old internet, all right? What was our song today? Oh, yeah. In your house, I want to play D&D. I want to roll a fighter, but for strength, I rolled a 3.